Hello, this is Mr. Yoon, and today we are going to be learning about slopes. And before we get to the main part of the lesson, I want you to think about where in real life you have heard of the word slope. So, what did slope? One example that I can think of is example of going to a ski slope, where you go on a mountain and you get on a ski and just come down the slope. Or on a skateboarding, you have heard the word slope. So in math, very similar to skiing or skateboarding, slope tells us how steep a line is. And in math, the slope can either be positive or negative. So remember that we read from left to right. So if I have a line that goes like this, reading from left to right, going, we know that this graph is increasing. Therefore, this line has a positive slope. And if I draw a line that goes this way, from reading from left to right again, it is going down. Therefore, I know that this graph has a negative slope. And a line can also have zero slope or slope that just doesn't exist, but I will cover more about that in a different lesson. So, also, and that is graphically what it means, and I will show you a little more in terms of numerically. Um, so, we often use the letter M to symbolize slope. So, in general, and there's many different way to calculate slope or to find out slope. And our slope is either rise over run, which is the same as um, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or this triangle y means change of y divided by change of x. So what it really means is that the slope tells us that how much y changes when x increases by 1 is what our slope tells us. And over here, the most easiest way to remember how to calculate the slope is remembering rise over run. So how do I calculate, or the difference of y divided by difference of x. So my rise is equal to pretty much how much the graph is going up or down. And run is how much the x is changing left or right. So, and I'm going to explain this formula. So if you were just given 2 points to calculate the slope, if I'm given 2 points x1, y1, and x2, y2, this is just dividing the difference between the y coordinates, dividing it by the difference of x coordinates, and we can also find the slope. And let's try to do some examples of how to find the slopes. So example 1 says finding slope given 2 points. Number 1 says plot the given points and graph the line. So my first point is a is equal to -3 and -2. So -3 and -2. And my second point is 1 and 6. So this is a, and 1 and 6 is 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Over here, and that's my point B. And I'm just going to draw a line going through 2 points. And I'm finished with number 1. And my number 2 says, will I have a positive or a negative slope? So when we're reading the graphs, we read from left to right. So going from left to right, the line is going up, therefore it has a positive slope. And next, it says calculate the slope using the slope formula. So I'm going to tell you two different ways to find out the slope of this graph. So both of them, the first step for both of them involves figuring out how much it's going up by and dividing it by how much it's going changing left to right. So over here, I'm just going to draw a line to make it easier to count how much it's changing by. So if I count this dotted line, I know that from A to B that it's increasing by 8. It's going up by 8. And from left to right, it is going to the right by 4. So then this is my rise and this is my run. And I knew from previous page that my slope m was equal to rise over run. And in this case, our rise was 8. And we just simply divided by the run, which was 4. And 8 divided by 4 is just simply 2. And I'm going to show you how to calculate the slope without the graph, and if I just had the 2 points. What would I do? All I have to do is calculate how much the y coordinate is changing and divide it by how much the x is changing. So my formula was that m was y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So my two given points, so the first one will be minus 3 will be the x1, negative 2 will be the y1, and then this 1 will be the x2 because it's the x coordinate of the second point, and my 6 will be the y2. Then I just simply have to plug this into the formula. So then I know that 6 is my y2, the y coordinate of the second point b, and then subtract it with the y coordinate of my a, and divide it by 1, my b, so the x coordinate of b, and subtract negative 3, which is my x coordinate for point A. Then what do I get? 6 minus minus 2 is 8, and 1 minus minus 3 is 4. Therefore, again, my slope is 2. Now, let's look at example 2. So example 2, we're finding the slope given a graph. So the first step of finding the slope from the given graph is choosing two easy points from the graph. So what I mean by easy points is points that will give me a whole number as the coordinate. So over here, I can see that this point is right on these smaller lines, and from on the right, I can maybe choose this line over here, and it tells us, and that looks about right on the dot. So number 2 and step 2 is will you have a positive or negative slope? So reading from left to right, this graph is going down. Therefore, I know that I have a negative slope. And now I have to calculate the slope using the slope formula. So if you're given a graph, all we have to do is literally count. And just remember that our slope, m, is equal to rise over run. So over here, again, I'm just going to draw a dotted lines. And how much is how much is the y coordinate changing? It's going down by 3. It is changing by 3, but it's also dropping by 3, so I gotta write negative 3. And to the right, I can see that it's changing by 2, but it's going right to the 2, so it's a positive 2. So my rise is then going to be negative 3, and my run is going to be 2. And 3 divided by 2, there's 2 does not go into 3, so we can just leave it as negative, as a fraction, which is negative 3 over 2. And I know that my slope is equal to negative 3 over 2. So to summarize, the key phrase for today that I want you to remember is that the slope is just simply rise over run. That's it for today, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.